just take it one day at a time. Just be the best person you can be today.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Conversational Lounge with Trudy, where we mentor, connect, and inspire others through real life stories. And if you haven't already, push that subscribe button so you can join one of the most inspirational networks in town. You can listen to us on everywhere you listen to your podcast. You can find our content at Withtrudy.com, and you can also find us on YouTube and on Facebook at our page Conversational Lounge with Trudy. Without further ado, please help me welcome one of our very special guests. I could not wait to get her on this seat.
Pleasure to be here.
Maame, welcome to the
Hi.
show.
Thank you.
So for those people who don't know who you are, they've never met you, they've never had a privilege of knowing who you are. So who's Maame?
Well, my name is Maame Schmidt. I grew up in Ghana. Came to college in America in 2006, moved to Des Moines 2007. I've been here since. I now live with my husband and our son. My husband's name is Mark and my son is Barima.
Nice. You got full hands.
Yeah.
How old is your son?
He's just 20 months.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So when you came here, something that really intrigued me about you is that you went to college for actuarial science.
Yes, I did.
Can you tell me a little bit about actuarial science and why that major?
Well, I guess actuarial science, in a very simple way of putting it, is insurance math. So it's the folks who work on trying to figure out what your premium should be, how much you should pay to an insurance company for them to cover you for any sort of claims that will come their way. So they work behind the scenes to figure out how much the company needs to be paying a certain profile of people so that they can actually be a going concern. They can actually make money as a business. So
wow. Okay, so I know you're from Ghana. You just said that. Is that something that you knew coming from Ghana, or is it something that was you decided, let me just do that once you came to the United States? Because I'm thinking insurance,
Yeah, I mean, insurance is not a very big industry in Ghana, to be quite honest. So it intrigued me. One of my uncles told me about it when I was living in Ghana and I was in high school at that time, thinking of what I wanted to do for a major in college. And told me about it and I started looking into it and I thought, you know what, this would be perfect because in Ghana, like for many African countries, I assume, the typical profession is like either you be a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer. That's kind of like what a lot of African parents will aspire for their children. And don't let me get you wrong. My parents didn't say you have to be this, but it was kind of implied just from the society that we lived in. And I just wanted to do something a little bit outside of the box. And I thought that actuarial science was close enough to those three, but at the same time different and challenging in that respect.
Nice. Well, congratulations for just taking something that's not very common, not very mainstream with our education system. It's always, medical, or you're going into an MBA, or you're going into law school, engineering. So that is interesting. Yeah. So tell me, how did that then translate to your corporate career?
So that's what I went to college for, but I actually ended up not being an actuary for a profession because after I got into the program, I realized after a few years of being in the program that it wasn't something that was for me, that was right for me. And so I actually did end up getting an MBA after I graduated. And then during that time while I was working on my MBA, that's when I got my first job actually with my current employer, and I've been there ever since for almost 11 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
You just pivoted. Wait, so you went to school for actuarial science, and then halfway through you decided I want MBA instead?
I don't even think it was halfway through. I think I was almost all the way through. And then it came to a point of, okay, so is this what you want to do for your career? Is this what you want to do as a profession? Because I was almost about to graduate in a year, and I decided this is not what I want for myself, just based on the experiences that I had in college. and even the experiences that I had as with an internship, I thought this is not what I want to do. And so I decided that I would rather pursue an MBA to kind of sort of give myself more time to think about what I wanted to do, and also to open myself to other options that were within the business school. And that's what happened. But really, when I started with my employer at that time, I think that even more so that than the MBA is what opened my eyes to like all the different possibilities that you could still have with that sort of analytical mind, and also that business orientation within corporate America without being an actuary. So even though I decided not to be an actuary, I still think that I've definitely tried to stay on that track of doing a lot of risk analysis as part of my job.
Wow. So it's a skill that once learned, it's not just lost. You can always continue translating it to different things that you're doing.
Because it's not really just about being an actuary. You have to have an analytical mind. That's really important. So it's not really just about the math of it, but also thinking through things, being analytical, and you can definitely use that in several aspects of life, not even just profession. But that also helped translate to different roles that I've taken up with my employer. Yeah.
Before we delve into your career life, what's your inspiration, or your biggest inspiration in life?
Well, I'm really inspired by a lot of women who have come ahead of me, especially my mother. She had us, me and 6 other siblings that I have. And she had me when she was 25. She was still working. She had just started working as a civil servant in Ghana. And at the same time, she was having all these kids, and she was also taking care of the household. So it was really the quintessential sort of mother figure that I grew up with, where she was running her career, but also running her personal life, her family life, and running the household in that way. So she inspired me because she made me feel like you can always do the impossible.
Wow.
So she's always inspired me in that respect. My mom is a very successful, career-driven person, but at the same time, she's always been there for her children, for her family. And so I really admired that about her, and really a lot of other women as well. But seeing that everyday example in my life helped me become who I am today, because I know it is possible to be successful outside of your home as well as inside of your home.
Wow, that's a strong role model. And to have that come from your home, that's just major. Yeah. So, and I'm glad that your mom played that role in your life, because look at, now we have you.
Right, yeah. I should mention another thing that my mom really inspired me is like just even being a role model outside of your own home. Like there's so many people that I saw my mom mentor when I was growing up. So that really inspired me to feel like think outside the box of who you can reach just with who you are as a person, and how you comport yourself and treat others as well.
Wow. So is your mom here?
No, she's still in Ghana.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's still working, still career woman. She's having a hard time wanting to retire. So, yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
You know, we follow our passions.
Yep,
so
exactly.
Let her follow hers.
Exactly. That's very true.
So I heard through the grapevine that you're a true real life princess. I want to talk about this because tell me more.
This is interesting. Well, I mean, technically speaking, that's true. My mom is part of the royal family in her hometown, and so is my dad. So I'm a princess on both sides, technically speaking. Although I don't know if I should say I'm a princess, more so that I'm part of the royal family.
Wow.
On both sides.
We have royalty.
Yeah. So, but you know, a lot of people like to think royal family, the Queen of England or something like that. But in Africa, there are a lot of kingdoms, and there are a lot of royal families. I mean, that's part of our heritage as Africans. And so it's really important that our parents and even those who came before us let us know this is who you are, this is where you come from. And part of that is that you are royalty. It might not be the standard that maybe a Western European person will look at, but at the same time, you are royalty in the eyes of your people. You are royalty, and you have to hold yourself up as such.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did that by any means shape the way you grew up in a way of a sense of responsibility, like a need to carry myself a certain way?
Not because I was royalty, because that's not really something that my parents told me when I was growing up. I don't know your experience, but at least with my African parents, they don't really tell you a lot about things like that. It's kind of things that you just happen to stumble upon just by conversation. So I didn't really know that growing up. I found out a lot later on. It was almost assumed that I would know that just based on who our family was, but I had no idea. But I think that what even gave me that sense of responsibility was just being the older sibling. Just having that older sibling syndrome of having to take care of your younger siblings, so babysit, help with homework, that sort of thing. So
yes. Oh, yeah. I can relate. Wow, this is just very interesting. Just the whole perspective.
Yeah.
So then, what was the driving force for you to migrate from your hometown to this country?
Well, I would say for me, my mom and my dad really raised me to understand like the sky is the limit, anything is possible, and that was what I also wanted to think for myself. So that was what drove me to decide what I wanted to do for a major when I decided on actuarial science. But then it also made me think, well, if I want to do actuarial science, where is the best place I can go to do that? And I realized it was not going to be in my country. I needed to find somewhere that had a really strong program. And so that's why I ended up going to Drake University. But it wasn't because I wanted to like leave my country and come to the US or anything like that. For me, it was more of like the world is your oyster. Like you can go anywhere, you can try anything.
I love that perspective. And then, hey, and look at you now. You were just bold enough. Like, I'm just going to go follow my dreams. So were you the only one in this country then?
At that time, yes, I was the first of my siblings to come to school in the US.
Wow.
Yeah, for college. Yep. And then now a lot of my siblings have followed with that. So
talk about being bold.
Yeah, but there were so many people doing it, so it wasn't that crazy.
The first one.
Yeah, I had quite a few friends who had already made that leap, so it was very easy to dream that dream and to also make it a reality. But there was some luck along the way as well. Like I went to an all-girls school back in Ghana, and that school was actually affiliated to a college in the US. And so that's how I got into that college. It was because their schools were linked. And coming into that college, that's how I actually found my way to Drake University, because after spending a year in that school, I was able to transfer to Drake University. So there is an element of luck involved. It's not as easy as it might seem.
But you had to be at the right place, at the right time, doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Wow. So a fun question I love to ask any immigrant that I interview is that culture shock moment when you came to this country. What was it for you?
For me, wow, I have to say it was when I came to Des Moines. There was a lot of cornfields. A lot of cornfields. We drove in. I have cousins who live in Minneapolis. So that summer we came to my cousins, and Minneapolis is a pretty sizable city, so kind of reminds me of Accra in that respect. It's populated. It doesn't have the small town feel that Des Moines does. So it wasn't too much of a shock there. But driving down from Minneapolis to Des Moines, and seeing cornfield upon cornfield and cows graze and things like that, like I hadn't really seen that anywhere in my life. So it was really that was probably one of the culture shocks. And then coming to Des Moines, seeing that this was the capital city of Iowa, it really felt like a small town. Don't get me wrong, Des Moines has actually grown quite a lot in the last 15 years or so that I've been here. But at that time, it felt like a small town. It really did. So that was definitely a culture shock for me. But I also liked it. I actually like the small town feel of it because when you grew up in big cities like Accra or even Minneapolis, it just feels like it's gonna swallow you sometimes. But it's really good to get a feel for knowing everything and knowing everywhere and being familiar with like all the big places and all the little places. It's really, I like that about Des Moines.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Really interesting. Were you expecting like skyscrapers and you know what I mean?
I don't even know what I was expecting. I didn't even think about it. All I knew is like, okay, we were driving down to go to the university. And this is what I understand a city to look like. I didn't think, so I guess maybe in that respect, I was expecting skyscrapers, but I mean, it's not like Des Moines doesn't have skyscrapers, but it's just not the number that I thought I would see. So in that respect, yes, maybe I was expecting that because that's all I had known. Like a big city is a big city, many people, busy, busy, busy everywhere. And coming in and seeing how quiet and how slow everything was, I was just like, whoa, I thought they said this was a city. So yeah, I think that was the shock of it.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a city, but when you come in, you realize it's really just a town.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then a lot of suburbs.
Yeah. A lot of suburbs for sure.
Yeah, interesting. So just to pivot a little bit into your career life. So you've graduated college, you've experienced Des Moines, and then so the company that you worked for since college or since graduating college, is it the same company or did you have some career breaks and career transitions all through?
No, I've been working for the same company since I got my first job outside of college.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's where I've been. I've changed roles a couple of times since then, but it's been with the same company.
Wow.
Yeah.
Then I'm really intrigued because when I hear being with the same company but switching roles, what comes to mind, I'm thinking you don't just switch roles, you're switching roles because there are growth opportunities or maybe it could be a lateral move, but because you want to learn something new or you want to share a skill set that you have with another group. So walk me through that process and how it has been, even navigating that corporate culture and growing through doing that.
Yeah, I think that one unique thing about the company that I work for is that they allow for that growth. They allow for employees to move laterally or even for promotions and things like that, just to get a feel for all the different parts of the company. It's a huge company. And so there are so many different opportunities that are available for you if you want to take them. But if you also want to stay in your track and just stay with what you're doing, that's also fine as well. And so I think in that respect, I've really tried both of them because I started out in that company as an underwriter, but then after a few years, I decided that I wanted to do more of a consultancy with risk analysis and things like that. So they were both risk-oriented roles, but just different angles. In one, you're sort of deciding if someone has the correct credit profile to obtain a mortgage. And in another, you're sort of deciding if a business has the right risk profile in general to be given a loan. It's kind of the same thing, but it's just a different angle to it. So you're still doing that risk analysis. And actually, since then, my role has changed because instead of looking at specific customers, now I'm working more in the model of what I'm doing to see how we could work and make it better for a customer while taking into consideration the different risks that we as a company can avoid while we're trying to serve our customer.
Wow. So you're thinking big picture.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Thinking big picture, just like not just because we want to serve this customer, but how can we serve this customer and do it the right way as a company?
Wow, that's a very important position to be in my perspective, because surely when you think about it, the customer is what drives everything. The customer is what drives the company. And if you're already looking at how we can minimize risk to the customer and being proactive for that customer, then I think that feels like it's headed in the right direction, or something at least along those lines.
Right. And I mean, I think that in the end, I kind of found myself there because in the end, that's really what I wanted to do. Even if I think about when I wanted to do actuarial science, in the end, what I really wanted to do was, how do I minimize risk for the customer and how do I minimize risk for my employer, for the company, and get everyone to be at a happy medium. So that's kind of in the nutshell of what I want to be doing as a career. That's what it is. And so you can fit that into different roles within that company. And so I find myself in this specific role today, but I could find myself doing something on a different day. But having that sense of this is the brand that I want for myself within this company, that's what has helped me to move within that company.
Wow. I like the way you put it that way. You know, the brand, it's your own brand that you can take within different roles with you, because this is what you're bringing to the table. It's your brand. Wow. So if someone's watching and then really interested in growing, maybe they feel stagnated in a corporate role, what can you tell such a person in how they can, maybe gain a different perspective, or how they can, get that break from that feeling stagnated?
I mean, well, that's a loaded question, because if someone is feeling stagnated, there could be different reasons why. It could be that maybe they're not enjoying the role that they have because it's not challenging enough. Or it could be that they don't enjoy their team, or they don't enjoy their manager. Or maybe there's something that they are really passionate about and it's not this job. So in that respect, there will be different answers for those different problems. Because if you are not enjoying your manager, you can just request to be transferred to a different manager within your same group of teams. Or if the job itself is not challenging enough, then maybe it is time to find a different role to challenge you. And if it's maybe you're just not passionate about the job, then you need to look at maybe even stepping outside of corporate America. You never know. I mean, what is it that you're passionate about? But then the bigger picture is like, who are you? What is it that you like to do? What problems do you want to solve? That's, for me, that's one of the bigger questions, because that's kind of how I know, like I said, that's my brand, but that's the problem I want to solve, is how can I serve a customer, but at the same time minimize risk for both the customer and the company. So that's the problem that I like to solve. That's the problem that interests me. That's the problem that challenges me. But if I'm working in a role where that challenge is not really met, then I want to go to a different role and solve that same problem within that role. So I don't like to think about like titles, or like, oh, this is a promotion, or this is a lateral move, or anything like that. For me, it's really about the job that I'm doing it well, to the fact that I feel like I'm solving a problem for the customer and also for the employer.
Wow. No, that's a perfect answer. You said it was a complicated question, but no, you broke it down perfectly. So just another thing too, and I notice a lot of women, mostly a lot of immigrants, when it comes to salary, in that area, we tend not to negotiate. You're offered a position, you're offered a salary, you accept it with gracious arms, because, oh my goodness, I would not be making this in the first place. So what would you tell, such a person about, from experience, when we talk about salary negotiation?
You know what? That's a really good question, because I feel like I've actually been guilty of that myself in the past. So usually when I've given advice to people, it's for example, my younger sister, when she got her recent promotion, I definitely told her, no, you need to go back and ask for more. I kind of wish sometimes that someone had told me that. So that's why I'm doing it for her. But I think that that's something that we need to really encourage our women. Like, hey, you can ask for more. If they say no, it's okay. But you can still ask for more. At least let it be known that you tried. So that's something, that's the advice that I would give for anybody. Like, try it. If it doesn't work out, that's fine. If you feel like you are worth more than this, then find something else. Do what is right for you. If you also feel like the offer is actually decent enough for where you see yourself, that's also acceptable. The good thing is that some companies are actually trying to do well and give you a decent offer to begin with. But if you feel like, if you look at maybe say Glassdoor or something like that, and you feel like, no, there's no way they should be giving me this, it should be more, go for it.
I like that.
Yeah.
I just recently learned, and I'm guilty as well too, like you, again, because of our humble upbringing. I recently learned that one of the things when it comes to salary negotiations is in most times people will apply for a position, and let's say it's a higher paying position than what you're being paid at the moment. So when it comes to that time where you're negotiating your salary, people have this thing, it's called anchoring. You're anchoring your value of that role, or your value that you're going to be bringing to that table to what you are already making. So when you look at that, you're already thinking, oh, this is already more than I was making, and you're already valuing your previous role and your previous position to that new one. So what the challenge was, start looking at that as its own individual opportunity. It's on, just look at it as what value will I be bringing, and then base your value to that position and the pay. Yeah,
that's actually a really good advice to give someone, for sure. It's hard not to anchor because you're looking at your bank account and you're saying, this is how much my bank account is going to grow by. It's very tempting. But yeah, you're right. You definitely should be looking at what are people making in that role. Don't think about what you have made previously, but what are people making in that role? And are you being paid the right amount? Are you being undervalued? And then put your offer in and see it. Well, I say put your counter offer in to see if they will respect that, or maybe they will decline.
Yeah, I like it. So to pivot outside of work, so we're geared, we work most of our days. So what do you like to do to unwind, or just as a hobby outside of work?
Oh, okay. Well, as a hobby, I really like soccer. I like to, as immigrants would say, football. I like to watch some football, also play some football. I like to spend time with my son and my husband. But then I also like working with organizations outside of just work or even my family. So I work with One Voice Des Moines, for example. We are, I'll say, an African immigrant young adult group. And what we're trying to do is just network with each other and help uplift each other in any way that we can, really. And then I also work closely with my church to help with recent refugees who've come into the country, help them assimilate into the country. And I actually don't want to use that word assimilate. It's more like help them settle and be comfortable and feel accepted into the society that we're in.
Wow. So Maame, what's the biggest or the best piece of advice ever given to you?
Oh, wow. Okay. Someone once told me, if you're going to do something, do it well. And I really appreciated that because it was just simple. It was kind of like, be in the moment. When you're doing things, do it in the moment. When you're hanging out with people, be in the moment. When you're working, be in the moment. Like, just focus on what you're doing now and be effective at it, whatever it is. If you're enjoying a movie, be in the moment. But if you're doing something, do it well. So not half-heartedly And I really feel like this has helped me, especially like in my career, because when I work at something, my bosses or my managers know like, okay, she's tried her best with this. And also it usually leads to success because I'm able to execute on the job that has been given to me because I put effort into it. It's also helped me even in my own personal relationships because it allows me to be in the moment when I am with people, whether it's my loved ones, whether it's even just friends. But being in the moment, they feel that you hear them. They feel that you're in there with them and you're actually experiencing that moment with them. And that brings about authenticity in a relationship. So if you're doing something, do it well.
I like it. And I like your spin on it, because if you're doing something, do it well. You can take that as, give it your best, but you took it to be present in the moment and truly focus on whatever it is, even if it's, family life, personal life, career, professional life. That is a good piece of advice.
Yeah.
Wow.
I really, that's how I interpreted that advice when it was given to me. Just focus on being present in that moment and executing on whatever it is that is in front of you.
Wow. Yeah. Well, knowing that is the best advice, I'm kind of scared to ask you my next question now. So pray for me. But my next question is it's more towards goals.
Okay.
And goal setting and what you think about that. But what do you have, planned for you, or what do you see yourself doing in the next 5 or 10 years from now?
Okay, so I like the question. I'm going to give a different spin to it. So for me, I don't really think about goals in that sense because I feel like when you do that, you could sell yourself short because your goal setting is limited to what you know in the moment, in the present, what you've picked up in the past. You don't really know everything that you don't know. So it's difficult to set a goal because anything is possible. There are so many things that can happen that you're not really in knowledge of. So you set a goal, you might actually be limiting yourself. So I am not a fan of setting goals, especially long-term goals, like 5 to 10 years. I'm more of focus on what to do today to be successful today. That's what my orientation is geared towards. And the reason I do this is because I really feel like, for what I just said, to be in the present, if you're doing something, do it well. It kind of lends to that because if you focus on what you have today, and if you focus on that and you're successful with that, in the end, your goals will come true, even the ones that you didn't know were goals. And it's funny enough because the only way that you really know is when you look back and you see everything that you've accomplished. And then you realize, wow, these are the things that I've been successful at. And it was just because I focused on today and doing what I needed to do today to be successful. And building on that day by day, you realize there's so many things that you've accomplished. And you can look back at that, and that actually gives you the positive reinforcement, the motivation that you need to keep pushing every single day to be the best person that you can be. So focusing on a goal, it can actually limit you, but also it can give you a lot of anxiety. Because what if you don't hit that goal? Now you're in this situation where you think you're a failure, things like that. But in the end, it's probably not even a goal you should have ever set for yourself. And you are wasting all this time feeling bad about something that really couldn't have been. So sometimes I feel like not only does it limit you in the sense of there could be other goals that you could be successful at achieving that you don't even know yet, that you should be setting, but it also limits you because it prevents you from getting the motivation that you need to even achieve other goals for yourself. So you start feeling like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I can't do this, or anything like that, and you start getting depressed or anxious, and now you're not even putting yourself in the best frame of mind to achieve goals that you should be achieving. So it can be really tricky to set long-term goals like that. It can be really tricky.
Wow. It's interesting that you say that, and I like your point of view of it could be self-limiting because, we don't have the vision to the future of what's going to be happening. And coming to think of an example of how we limit ourselves, it's a perfect example, and I think this is just imposed in a lot of African children growing up, is it's like our parents have this roadmap for us. You will go through school, by this age you'll be graduated, you will get a job, you'll buy a house, you'll get married. And then it gets to a certain age and you haven't achieved any of, maybe you've achieved some, you graduated, but these things that are in life, now we made it to be our own goals. But it was truly our parents' goals. So we were self-limiting, living someone else's goals. And then we feel like a failure and a disappointment.
Exactly, that too. I mean, some of the goals that we have, is it really our goal? That's a good point. Like some of them is because maybe the people that we looked up to, example, our parents told us, this is how I see you, or this is who I see you to be. And so you decide, oh, this is the goal I'm going to set for myself. And when you do that, I mean, even I have done this. So I know this happens. And when you do that, you realize when you don't achieve that goal, then you start to feel like a failure. But it was never your goal in the first place. So, and that's again why I say it's tricky, because in the thought process of when you are thinking about your goals, you don't even think about the influence of those goals. You don't think of where they are coming from sometimes and why you really want to achieve this. And so you might end up going down this road that you never really wanted to go. And then by the time you realize that you failed at it, you start blaming yourself, and it wasn't even something that you should have been doing in the first place. So I think that honestly, for me, the way I solve that is just to focus on what is in front of me today, what I can accomplish today for myself, for my family, for my network, the people around me, the people that I can influence in a positive way, my career, all these other things. That's all I want to do, is just focus on today and what I can accomplish. And what I have learned is, as I do that every single day, when I look back, I start seeing all the things that I've accomplished. And it makes me proud of who I am, because I know, first of all, the struggle it took to get there. But I also know that it was authentically me, and it was what I wanted. And it wasn't some goal that somebody else was thinking or setting for me, or how somebody else wanted. Because I have the exact experience you have. My dad told me at some point, you should be married at this time, you should have these many kids. I mean, even now they're already saying, when is the second kid coming?
Yes,
so
there's never enough.
I mean, those are some of the pressures that you go through when you come from an African family. And I can imagine it's not just African. I'm sure there are other cultures like that as well. But because of what I have learned just by practicing it, when I hear things like that, I just shrug it off, because I know that might be the idea that they have for me, but that's not what I have for myself, or I don't even know if that's what I want for myself. And all I know is every day I'm just going to do the best I can do with what I have. And if 5 years later, maybe I don't have what that person was thinking, it's fine, because I know I did the best that I could do in those 5 years. If 5 years later I've accomplished what what they were thinking, that's fine as well. I know I didn't do it for them. I know I did it for me, because that's something that I was looking at for myself every single day, and working for myself, for my family, for my neighbors, for my company, like whoever it is, like whatever your network is, just being that positive influence to everyone around you, helping people. That's just what my focus is on. Because I think that if you start setting goals, especially 5-10 year goals, you're just putting a lot of pressure on yourself. And it might distract you from what you really should be focusing on today. And so I just try and focus on today.
Wow. You're opening my eyes, because I've always been I need a target. I need a target so I can focus my energy to that target. But then back to your point,
what if your target is wrong?
What if my target is wrong? Yeah. Then I'm just blazing in the opposite direction for 5-10 years.
Yeah. And I mean, there are a lot of people who will convince themselves that their target wasn't wrong. Sometimes that's what ends up happening.
Trying to convince yourself you're right.
Right. Just be real with yourself. Be authentic with yourself in the moment. every moment, and not say, oh, this is who I expect my perfect husband to be. This is who I expect my perfect child to be. This is how my friends should be. This is how my house should look like. Like those type of things. And especially when people do that, they're comparing themselves to other people. But the truth of the matter is you should be comparing yourself to yourself. Because every day what you should be striving to do is just be a better version of yourself. That's the only thing you can do. Because the truth of the matter is everyone has gone through a different struggle. You cannot be the same. You cannot be identical to anybody in this world. Your experiences, your background, everything makes you your unique you. So in comparing yourself to someone else, you've already lost the fight. You've already lost the race. You have to compare yourself to yourself.
Wow. I really do like that. I do like that a lot because society almost makes us, even sports does that too, which team is better than the other one. So now all of a sudden we're just focused on seeing how we are comparing to our peers. If we went through to the same schooling system, where are they now? Where am I now? But I do love your spin of it's more about where am I now compared to where I was yesterday.
Right.
As opposed to where am I now compared to someone else who...
Even the better sports teams, the ones that are really successful, they're not comparing themselves to other teams. They're not comparing themselves to other sportsmen or women. They are striving to be the best that they can be. The ones that are really at a high level, that's what their challenge is. How can I be better than I was yesterday? That's why they practice. That's what they focus on when they're in practice. That's what they focus on outside of practice. Every day, they want to be a better version of themselves. They're comparing themselves just to themselves. And so even with that, yes, we as the audience, we're watching and we're saying, oh, wow, this person, I can't believe they hit these number of 3-pointers and they broke this record and all that stuff. But, or this person is better than this person. But the fact of the matter is, Steve Curry is not comparing himself to LeBron James. He's just trying to be a better Steve Curry. That's all he is. The exact same with LeBron James. He's just trying to be a better version of himself. And so we as the audience, we're comparing them, but they're not doing that.
So we're projecting our comparison to them.
Yes, that's our problem. Like they are focused. They are fully focused on being a better version of themselves because they know that is how they will be successful. The only way they can be successful is if they focus on being a better version of themselves.
Wow, yeah. And I think really if, we start shifting our mindset to that, where it's all about how I compare to who I was yesterday, I think it will be a little bit more fulfilling in a regard where if you don't meet a certain goal or if your neighbor, I don't know, paints their house, you don't feel like all of a sudden you got to paint your house now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's true. Like it makes you fulfilled because you know the struggle it took to get to where you are today. You know what is possible for yourself. And you also know when you're lying to yourself. You know when you could be doing better. So in the end, you are really answering to yourself. There's no one else that you're answering to. Like I'm a Christian. So in the end, when you die on the day of judgment, God is not comparing your life to other people's lives. He's saying this is the struggle I gave you. This is the torch that you had to bear. And this is what you did with it. So that's you. That's on you. You can't blame anybody. You can't say, well, this person told me this and this person told me that. No. This is what you had to deal with for your life. And how did you accomplish it? What did you do with it? That's the question. It's not about anybody else. You have to just do the best that you can do for yourself. That's the most important thing.
Wow.
And I don't want anyone to take that like in a selfish slant and feel like I just have to go and get mine, and forget about everybody else. I'm talking about being the best version of yourself for not just for you, but for everybody around you, for all the people that you influence in one way or another. If it's just your coworkers or even your family or even your friends or even just strangers that you meet at the grocery store, just always trying to be a better version of yourself. It's so important because in the end, that's what life is about. No one is going to talk about when you die, the people who will remember you, it's not because of the money that you gave them. It's really because of how kind you were to them and how present you were with them and how authentic you were with them. Mm-hmm. Those are the people who will remember you.
Yes, that is perfect. And then just a little tough question. So what keeps you going? Do you ever set maybe short-term goals to keep you looking forward to the next day? Or how do you then transition from focusing on today to looking a little bit ahead?
Yeah, I definitely set short-term goals because I would say actually I want to call them like projects.
Okay.
That's a better way of putting it. Like I just try and focus on like, okay, this is the project that I'm trying to accomplish in like the coming weeks or something like that, and getting that project done. And that will be my focus for like that amount of time. It's just focusing on all these mini projects that I'm doing, or working with people to do. And then that's kind of the focus that I try and give instead of 5 years or 10 years, because I feel like 5 years or 10 years, you're really looking at making a lot of
lifetime.
Yeah, it's a lifetime. You're really trying to make a lot of assumptions about what's going to happen in the world in that time. Who knew that there will be war in Europe 3 months ago? Maybe some people knew, but not like your layperson. So it's very difficult to make these sort of like big goals, like, oh, 5 years time, this is what I'm going to be doing. You don't know. You could say that, but you might just be setting yourself up for failure.
True. I couldn't agree more. So I know you've talked about, outside of work, you're really involved in a lot of nonprofit organizations, and you like to give back to your community, and you like to help other people, and if there's any way that you can help others succeed or learn something, that's one of the things that you mentioned that you're passionate about.
Yes.
So I would like to learn a little bit more about One Voice. So just tell me more about the organization and what do you guys have planned?
So One Voice, Des Moines, what we're doing is we are coming together as African immigrants, whether we were born here to African parents or whether we came here to study and things like that, but we've grown up here, and we are now working in the Des Moines area or the greater Des Moines area, and we want to network with each other to kind of lift each other up, encourage each other, or even give each other the resources that we need to be successful at whatever it is that we're thinking of. Our focus this year really is financial success. So that's some sort of the theme that we're going on this year. And so we've been trying to schedule different Zoom events specifically because of COVID, just to talk about like different ways that you can set yourself up financially, especially as a young adult in your 20s and 30s, how you can set yourself up so that in the future you have a pretty strong financial basis to work from in terms of investments, savings, things of that nature, and even understanding how the U.S. economy works, the financial economy in the U.S. works. Another thing that we're trying to focus on, which is going to happen in June of this year, is teaching the youth. So not the young adults, but the youth. So folks that are in high school going into college, or folks that are in college, what it means to have a credit history. Mentoring, so that when they come out of college, they have people who look like them, who work in the industries that they want to work in. To kind of be there for them and give them the advice that honestly some of us wish we had when we had just started out working. So we have an event coming up in June focused specifically on the youth.
Wow, that sounds like a powerful event. You're getting them young, so just as soon as they're done with high school, you're equipping them with the financial tools and mentorship to help them through college and into their first careers.
Because a lot of young people, a lot of youth, when they get into college, they start opening credit cards, not really understanding what it means to have credits, what a credit history can do for you, or what it can do against you. A lot of them don't really understand like financial aid, student loan debt, things like that, and how they can actually become a constraint when you're trying to better yourself financially in the future. So we're really just focused on this event is really just focused on just talking to them about things like that, like for them to keep in mind these type of things when they make decisions, because at that age you might get a little excited that you're going to have a credit card, some money to spend and things like that, and it's not all bad, but you have to do it in a very intelligent way so that you're not sort of putting yourself in a position where it makes it very difficult to have the opportunities that you can have in the future financially.
Wow. So if a parent is watching this session right now and they have a high school kid, or they know a parent or another parent who has a kid going, graduating this year, how would that parent know about your event and where to even, bring their child or their kid so they can learn about all this amazing knowledge that One Voice will be sharing?
Yeah, we have a Facebook group. So that's One Voice DSM. And we also have a WhatsApp group that we can always have people join. They just have to email us at onevoicedsm@gmail.com, and we can just add them to the WhatsApp group. We always post upcoming events, not just regarding this event specifically, but also other events within the community, really about empowering African immigrants. So not just even for their kids, but even for the parents as well.
It's been a pleasure speaking with you today and having you on our show, Maame. I have learned a lot. I appreciate your point of view and just your experience and being open to share that with the world. So as a parting shot, what would you like to let your audience know?
Well, to begin with, I want to thank you for interviewing me, asking me questions, or I guess having a conversation with me. I appreciate that. I don't think I'm really special, but I mean, you're making me feel special today.
You are special.
And I appreciate the fact that you're giving a voice to young adult Africans in Des Moines. So thank you so much for doing that. And for all the young adult Africans and even older adult Africans in Des Moines, in Iowa, please join One Voice DSM so we can grow our network, so we can learn more from each other, so that we can be the better person that we want to do every single day. We want to be every single day. So if you want to join One Voice, please feel free to email onevoicedsm@gmail.com. So that's ONEVOICEDSM@gmail.com.
Thank you so much. It just feels like a good network to have of people who already are in here or in this country navigating, so they can help others navigate as well.
Right, exactly. There's so many immigrant communities that have done this for themselves. In past generations, we didn't have like WhatsApp and Gmail and things like that to have that network, but those networks still existed for those immigrant communities. And we need to do the same for African immigrant communities as well, especially because there are some negative perceptions regarding Africans. And so it's really good for us to come together and combat that negative perception.
Wow, I couldn't agree more. I mean, as an African myself, I appreciate your organization. So that's good to know.
Yeah, thank you.
And then, so for someone who's watching, and it could be any part of your story or something you haven't shared today, and they're truly inspired by you, what kind of message or advice would you leave for such a person?
Just take it one day at a time. Just be the best person you can be today.
Wow. Thank you so much. And everyone at home, thank you so much for staying with us. If any part of this message or any of our videos or content speaks to you or speaks to someone else that you know in your networks, please go ahead and share, because our goal is truly to inspire someone else using someone else's real life story. So if this speaks to you, you can find us anywhere. And if you haven't subscribed, what are you still waiting for? So thank you so much and have a wonderful day. If you haven't already, please push that subscribe button so you can be a part of the most inspirational network in town.